Hey everybody, Mike Guglielmi from Sons of a Pitch Soccer Podcast. Episode 139 is live. Right now I am joined by my co-host and good friend Nick Pateras, and as well from Amador Rojas. Amador, how you doing? Here's your shout out right away. Let's get it out to you. Nick, how you doing on this wonderful Monday night?
Oh, Mike, it is a great day to be talking MLS soccer. So much has happened in the last, 12 hours? In the last half hour. Look at this LAFC Houston game that's going on. There is a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm excited to talk about it away, man. This is going to be fun.
Lots to talk about, that's for sure. We've got a lot of games that happen. We had some games not happen, get postponed. We've had all kinds of stuff. Since we last talked now, Nashville is out. We've got a lot of other things going on as well. Nick, we've got the first game we did a live for Orlando City and Inter Miami. That was absolutely fantastic. A great game. Tell our viewers a little bit about that one if they missed our live stream reaction.
Well, first of all, we want to let everyone know that we would love to have you all join our soccer conversations on Twitter at SOP Soccer, by Facebook at Sons of a Pitch Soccer, obviously here on YouTube at Sons of a Pitch Soccer, or you can always direct message us on Twitter, email us, podcast at sonsofapitchsoccer.com. It's our goal here to grow the sport of soccer through conversation. And, this is our little part of it, our little soccer world here, Sons of a Pitch, social media and podcast. So feel free to reach out. And yeah, Mike, we had a great time doing live reactions on the Orlando Miami game, the opener to the MLS is back tournament, the concocted rivalry derby, the Florida Derby. I couldn't remember what someone called it. They're like, if LAFC is El Trafico, then Orlando Miami is El Trashico. Like there's something like that. There were some good jokes about this kind of manufactured rivalry that the MLS is putting together here. But Orlando, to my surprise, came away with the 2-1 victory over expansion side Inter Miami. Nani with the game winner. Man, you could see early on in that game he was going to make an impact. I tweeted out that, does he have the highest soccer IQ on the pitch? I don't think there was anyone on either of those squads, and maybe even on the coaching staffs, that had a higher soccer IQ. You could tell he was locked in. He was making plays. I think he assisted on the first goal and then ended up with the game winner. So Nani gives Orlando 3 points. It looks like they're sitting pretty in their group right now, in Group A, especially now that Group A has been completely shuffled around, huh?
Yes, Group A is no longer the 6-team group. That is now a 4-team group since Nashville is out of the tournament as well. A big win for Orlando. You're spot on there. I've got, the best soccer IQ, no doubt, was Nani for sure. So this one, look, we got Amador shout out, please, in all caps. Amador, here's your shout out. Amador Rojas, a big fan here of Sons of a Pitch Soccer Podcast. Thanks for joining us again. Group A now. You've got just the Orlando and Miami, so you got the 2 Florida teams, and you got New York City and Philadelphia. Chicago now moved over to Group B with Seattle, San Jose, and Vancouver. So a very interesting mixed turn of events, so to say, with that. But a great win for Orlando. They kind of take the upper hand into the group, into the second round of games with that. And then we've got to talk next about the Philadelphia Union and New York City matchup. This was a 9 a.m. game, the first 9 a.m. game. And New York City and Philadelphia, 2 really good teams. And trying to see how this one would play out. I figured maybe it'd probably be a draw. Going with these 2 good teams, fairly even teams, and then kind of the 9 a.m. start would kind of screw things up a little bit. So I was wrong in this one. Philadelphia gets a 1-0 victory, and they're up to at top of Group A with Orlando City. Nick, what were your thoughts on the Philadelphia and New York game at 9 a.m.? What would you see from both clubs?
Well, it's definitely clear that these MLS clubs are going to have to get used to these 9 a.m. start times. That it's difficult, especially when your entire career you've been training for afternoon type games, and then you come down to this weird tournament setting. You're in a bubble, and then you have these random times to play your games, and then you get into, well, this team had maybe 2 3 days rest. This team had a day and a half less because of the 9 a.m. start time versus a late start time. So there's all these things. But the flip side to that, Mike, is every team's got to deal with it. It's not good for the fans because you're not getting the best soccer that you want. So that's kind of my overall thing with these early start times, is that it's affecting the play. However, both teams do have to deal with it. I was kind of surprised Philadelphia came away with a 1-0 victory. I think I had New York City winning this group, or at least whoever won this game would win the group. But Matrita was out for NYCFC. Abera missed a sitter late in the game to equalize, and the Union did just enough to walk away with 3 points and are now soundly in control of this group. So we'll see how Philly does in their next matchup, and if they can continue their run of form. And you know what? This is a great opportunity for a team like Philly, who wants more out of their season, who's expecting more from the fans are expecting more, the players and ownership, coaching is expecting more. If they can win this tournament, or at least advance to the finals of this tournament, that is going to give them even more confidence as they get into the regular quote-unquote season with MLS.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. This Philadelphia is kind of like, to me, they've kind of turned the page. They picked up some good players, and they didn't even have to spend a ton of money. They're looking good, and to be able to beat an NYCFC team who has had their struggles so far this season, that's for sure. I was impressed with the victory a lot, and I think this could be somewhere where they make a run. I fully expect them to win this group now with Orlando and Miami to set themselves up nicely for the group stage time. That I can see that one happening for sure. But really, Philly's a very interesting team. I mean, all of these names that have come together, I forget his name, Martinez, El Brujo. He came in, he's played great. He's really tearing it up. And, it's some other players as well. It's crazy how these guys are doing. Right.
You've got the young guys coming up, Mark McKenzie. You've got a guy who is established like Shabilko and decided to come over to the United States and try his trade here at the MLS. So you're learning these Philly guys because they're getting better, and they're earning you to figure out who they are. Like, they're earning their spot in American soccer. And on top of all of that, the biggest news maybe to come out of this match was when Taylor Twellman says that Celtic, the Scottish club, is really interested in Mark McKenzie. Like, 21-year-old American from New York, all of a sudden Celtic wants him. Top one or two, depending on your fan affiliation between Rangers and Celtic, in the Scottish League, Champions League regular. I mean, that's big news, isn't it, Mike? If 21-year-old Mark McKenzie of the Philadelphia Union, a team who hasn't won anything in MLS, right, is getting looks from Celtic. What's the impact of that?
Oh, it's a big impact. I mean, Mark McKenzie is a good talent. He's a young talent, and it's good that he's getting noticed. I think that we'll see a good turnaround. Some of these young guys in MLS have started to change now into a selling league, and I can see that that being the case with some players on the Philadelphia Union. Right, you've got Mark McKenzie, I forget Brent Anderson. You've got a couple other young guys there that are coming up. That Anthony Fontana got some minutes in this game. DeVries, I believe his name is. He got some minutes in this game. They've got a lot of young talent, and there's a lot of teams that a lot of bigger European teams that are out there and looking at the talent in MLS to move into their squad. So I think it's a great thing for MLS. I think it's a great thing for the Philadelphia Union. Now, what does that translate to if they do sell these guys? Does that translate into some, into spending the money on other players, or is that just kind of the club you're aiming to be under Jim Curtin? I don't know.
Sure. If it's me, if you're the Union, you want a trophy. You want hardware. You want to reward the fans, the front office, and especially the players for all their work. So if Philly ends up selling McKenzie and turning it...
Yeah, no, for sure. That I expected more out of Montreal. The only little bit of saving grace that I'll give them, though, is the fact that they were kind of cut back. In the beginning, they couldn't train. They were one of the last teams to even get individual training, and then they were one of the last teams to get to full team training, kind of like San Jose. I know a big deal was made out of San Jose not being able to make their full training, but now at least they're in the bubble and able to train, so maybe that had something to do with it. It'll be interesting to see with their game, their derby, whatever the hell it's called, 504 derby or 904, or I can't even remember the highway that they're talking about in Toronto, but between Toronto and Montreal. But that should be a good game, and that's going to be huge. I mean, I think all right, good stuff. Rocky says we're back on, so we've got New England in the driver's seat in that group, Montreal, and really, I mean, that Montreal-Toronto game is a big one. If Toronto gets the victory over Montreal, they're probably done. If Montreal gets the victory over Toronto, Toronto's in big trouble. So, next up down the list here, we've got the Seattle Sounders and the San Jose Earthquakes. This one, Seattle Sounders, this was a game, man. This was a hell of a game to watch. As a bad way, not a good way. It was really, really boring. Yeah, it was just ugly soccer from both teams. And San Jose, yeah, you got that. You've got that thing we were just talking about, right? About the them not being able to train. But the fact that all these substitutions, these water breaks, and it was just ugly soccer. There was nothing pretty. The stats in this one, you've got a lot of shots on target, and the possession was very heavily favored to San Jose at 62%. It was. Right. Yeah, that's. Oh, Nick, your audio is a little low here. Looks like Daniel's saying your audio is a little low. I've got. There you go. Now you're coming through my end better. So Daniel, let us know if you can hear Nick a little bit better. Yeah, this one was rough to watch. San Jose, I think their biggest issue is having a striker. Andy Rios is not going to be that striker. He is not good enough to get the job done in MLS, at least in my opinion, at least not yet. Maybe he will be later on, after a few more years of development. But yeah, it's not going to get it done. They have to spend some money and bring in a decent striker. They've got Danny Housens, but he's not really a huge. He's not. I wouldn't call him a striker. So they got to put something there. No, exactly. So they need to get somebody on that end to give them a threat, because there was no threat up top for San Jose in this one, and Seattle just looked all out of sorts. Ladero had a horrible game. It just was not pretty at all. So now we'll move off of that one. Nick, how about what's the next game up? Look like Red Bulls and Atlanta. What are your thoughts on that matchup? Yeah, I think we're having some audio issues there, Nick. I don't think anybody heard you. Chris Machado, thanks for joining. He says Nick is completely mute. And then Rocky says, still can't hear Brother Nick, though. Rocky says he's going to listen to the pregame. Be right back. Get on it, Rocky. Good luck to the Timbers tonight. Hope they pull out the victory against LA Galaxy. Yeah, I mean, we've got. I'm not sure. I took your NDI source out. I brought you back in to see if maybe, just maybe, you will be in our thing here, because all of my stuff looks good over here. So I don't know what the hell's going on. But Nick, you were saying that New York Red Bulls looking good with that 1-0 victory over Atlanta, and we were just talking about strikers in Atlanta. And boy, oh boy, that's a problem. Adam John, not going to get it done. You can kind of bring in the talent and kind of push them forward to look like strikers, but that's not going to get it done for them. I know they brought in some other guys in a little bit of a break there to try and get things better, but man, it's not pretty for Atlanta. They're just not firing on all cylinders. They had 2 victories to begin the season, and that was a good start for them. However, the problem is, these guys are, their competition wasn't the best. I think they beat Cincinnati and somebody else. So a great look there for the Red Bulls to kind of jump on top of the group there. Florian Velo in the 4th minute, and then it was just kind of craziness going on. Lots of substitutions and cards. Not a very exciting matchup to watch, but that's kind of what Red Bulls games are, right? They hit you with the high press, and that's how they do it. So there we got Chris Machado. Let's go, proving all those predictions wrong, and no one thought we'd beat them. Agreed. No, everybody, at least in the everybody except for Nick. Nick was on top of it. He's got the Red Bulls winning the group, but there's a lot of pundits, including myself. I thought that Atlanta would win that game. I thought it would be very close, but I thought Red Bulls did have a slight chance. But yeah, that proving them wrong, proving all of us, all the experts wrong. And well done to the New York Red Bulls. Nick, have you relocated at all yet? Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, not really. Because the Red Bulls sometimes there's teams that have other teams' numbers, and that is the case with the Red Bulls. They definitely have the number of the Atlanta United 5 stripes there for sure. So it doesn't really bother me. I think the Red Bulls come the playoffs. We all saw it back in 2018 in their MLS Cup victory. In their championship, they did take out the Red Bulls in that playoff series. So, when it's on the line, so I don't know what it is. I'm guessing it's the high press of the Red Bulls that just gets them in the regular season, and maybe they bring a little bit more heat when they're in the playoffs. I don't know, but either way, it's an issue for Atlanta, and they've got to figure that out, or they will constantly be losing to the Red Bulls. Hell is Real Derby. Up next, this one was hell for one team. Can anybody guess which team was hell? And Nick, why don't you let our fans in on that one?
you've got an MLS roster and an MLS franchise in Cincinnati, and they just can't hack it against an average to maybe slightly above average Columbus team. On the flip side, though, FC Cincinnati is practically a USL team, so maybe they were arguing against themselves if this is the game that they're using. So just kind of interesting takes that I've heard and seen recently. End of the day, though, Columbus, 4 goals. That's a great result no matter who you're playing. By the way, everyone's favorite forward to hate, Giassi Zardes, bags of brace. So he's doing what he needs to do over there, and Columbus looked good, Mike. Caleb Porter's got him playing well. Could be great.
Yeah, it was a great game for Columbus. Cincinnati was a rough one. That was definitely rough for them. What a shot by Lucas Zelarayan. I mean, what a great, the guy continues to prove why, he continues to prove me wrong, because I watched him a couple times in the Champions League, and when he came over here, I'm like, yeah, he's not going to be that good. Well, he was. But man, what a shot. A great free kick right off the post. Just a great free kick. And then Giassi Zardes, man, he gets it done. He's got, it was all from 3 players. Zelarayan, Zardes, and Mokhtar were just on fire all night for this one. And it just would not, would not go any other way. I mean, Columbus had the game plan out there, and Cincinnati just kind of fell apart. They got a new coach. They got new players all together. I think it's going to be a early exit for Cincinnati out of this tournament, and hopefully whenever the regular season resumes after the tournament, God, I hope they can figure something out, because those fans, they got some awesome fans there in Cincinnati, and you hate to see a losing product for too long that can cause some of those fans to head the other way.
One thing that I'm scratching my head about FC Cincinnati, and we initially thought they put together a decent roster, or at least a roster that could be competitive. They're starting in goal Przemysław Titan, 33-year-old from Poland. They're using an international roster spot on a goalkeeper. You don't typically see that, Mike. You don't typically see someone or see a franchise use a resource like an international roster spot on a goalkeeper. They've got Bobby Edwards and Spencer Ritchie also sitting on the bench. Titan looked totally out of sorts. Like he was leaning the wrong way on the Zelarayan free kick. Not that he would have gotten to it. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful free kick. Hits the inside of the post and goes in. But he seemed out of position and out of sorts and not communicating with his defenders. And really, the defenders seemed like they didn't really care to defend his goal. They got to make a change in goal, I think. I don't know much about Przemysław Titan's background and his pedigree, where he comes from, how much he was valued at, but man, I just don't think he looked good at all. And for a guy who's 33, who has played what looks to be with a number of teams over his career, in Europe in some of the smaller leagues, though did play with PSV Eindhoven for a few years. I just don't think he's going to be the answer there, Mike. They gotta redo their back.
Yeah, it's definitely not the answer. You don't want to use those international spots. I don't think that's the only problem they have, but there's a lot of holes they got to fill. I mean, you look at some of these names like a Kendall Waston, who was one of the he was in the talk for Defender of the Year in his time in Vancouver, right? He comes over here, it's different now. Nick Hagland isn't being used. They paid a ton to get him from Toronto FC, the hometown kid. He's not getting used. It's just been a lot of very weird management decisions, and obviously that you're going to get that when you've got a totally different setup. Every it seems like every 6 months there's a new guy in there. But overall, I'm worried about Cincinnati for this season. I'm hoping what I would do if I'm a new coach, Jobstam, I'm saying everybody out. Cincinnati done. If they get bounced out after 3 games and they lose all 3 games of this tournament, he's got to just clean house. Get rid of everybody and say, listen, if you will not stand behind me and completely get rid of everybody on the roster who I do not like, then I'm gone too. And if you can't guarantee me a year or 2 years to put this together once I get a full roster together, then I'm out. They have to. They can't do the whole the carousel action of, oh, we're gonna fire the coach, oh, we're gonna fire the GM, oh, we're gonna fire the coach, oh, we're gonna fire the GM, and every 6 months, and then some guys are bringing in some of their players, and the other guys are bringing in some of their players, and then that's got to stop. And I think that's the biggest issue for Cincinnati right now. They've got Jobstam in, and all of these guys are Ron Jans's guys and the GM's guys. They got to work something out and figure out a good game plan. So
Mike,
that's
a
my rant.
really, really bold statement. But FC Cincinnati needs it. They can't get any worse, Mike.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I know this from being a TFC fan. I have watched a long time of the carousel, and I just absolutely will not stand by it as a fan. If that's how you're going to operate, you're doing it wrong. So, anyways, that's enough of talking about the Hell is Real derby, which was definitely hell for Cincinnati on this one. Now, the next game, Sporting Kansas City and Minnesota United. Nick, this one, my guess was going to be the best game of the tournament, first round. And these guys, Sporting Kansas City, comes out, looked really good. Minnesota, before the game, Luis Amarilla gets hurt in, their star striker gets hurt in warm-ups. He's out. Ozzy Alonso's out. Ike Opara is out. Like, oh boy, this is going to be looking a little bit easier for Sporting Kansas City. And for the first 50, 60 minutes or so, it was. All until a red card to Tim Mealy in the 74th minute, and that completely changed the game. As usually that's how it works, unless you're a team named TFC. But I'll get to that later. So Tim Mealy goes out, and now all of a sudden, Kyrie Shelton, who had scored the first goal for Sporting Kansas City, gets hit with the own goal, and it's tied 1-1. And then Minnesota just fighting for it. Kevin Molino pulls out the winner in the 90th minute, +7. A great resilient performance by Minnesota United, who's 3-0, and doesn't look like they're going to back down anytime soon. A very, very good game from them. Did you get a chance to watch this one, Nick?
I watched this one, Mike, and my recap on Twitter was goalkeeper howler, goalkeeper red card, Star gets hurt, Mason Toye suffered a minor injury, VAR disallowed a Minnesota United equalizer. Then they get the own goal equalizer, and then the stoppage time winner. I don't know what else you could have in a soccer game, Mike. This was every crazy possibility occurred in this game. And if you look at the first goal, Minnesota's keeper makes an absolute blunder of reading the play. He jumps out to cut the cross off, and so Kyrie Shelton just calmly puts it in the near post that Minnesota's keeper very conveniently vacated for him. Like, it was just one of the worst looking goalkeeper plays you had ever seen. And we had a good discussion on Twitter that as a goalkeeper, you're coached to play the shot, and then the defenders are coached to play the cross and to cut off the pass in those kind of situations. Well, in this case, everyone just drifted over to the center, and Kyrie Shelton found an empty near post and took advantage of it. So I thought that was going to be it. I thought Minnesota would kind of get deflated after that.
Yeah, so did I.
But SKC gifted it right back with another ridiculous goalkeeping blunder. I don't know what Tim Melia is doing 3 yards out of his box trying to make a defensive play.
Yeah, that was odd.
This is a guy who is in the conversation for Golden Glove year in and year out. A guy who's anchored some of the best defensive teams in MLS history. But again, that seems to be ancient history, and I'm starting to wonder what's going on in Melia's head here. For him to be out this far and just not even attempting to make a defensive play on the ball. He just goes down and takes out the Minnesota player. Easy red card decision. There were some people commenting saying, I don't know, he wasn't the last man back. But really, it's denial of a clear goal-scoring opportunity. It doesn't mean he has to be the last man back. That's just one thing that can be used to help interpret that rule. Obvious goal-scoring opportunity.
Because it was outside of the box. Being outside of the box, that's what did it. So, it's It's a tough one for these guys to swallow, especially when you're in control, but that was, I don't know what Amelia was thinking either. I'm guess I'm just gonna kind of put that one on the fact that it's the break. That's all I can think of. He was just a little bit off with that one. But
and what's worse is now he's out the next match.
Right.
Like, he puts his team at a further disadvantage because their backup is Richard Sanchez, formerly of Chicago Fire, formerly of the ire of this podcast.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, dude,
I did not want to
almost
see Richard
tweeted it
Sanchez
out.
on my TV again.
Yeah, I almost tweeted it out. As soon as he came into that match, I'm like, oh god, this is not gonna go well. That was my initial thought. I'm like, man, they're probably in trouble now. Down a man, and you got Richard Sanchez in goal. Yeah, Minnesota's got a really good chance to come back in this one, and they did. So, do you put a kid in instead of Richard Sanchez, especially with how bad the guy looked in that 30 minutes? Yeah, that's what I thought you'd say, and I agree. That's why I asked the question, kind of like a lawyer. You know a little something about that, right? Always ask the questions you know the answer to. Yeah.
Well said, Mike. Well said. Talk to me about the last couple of games that have come to completion here. RSL beats Colorado 2-0, and then I know you want to talk about TFC DCU.
No, I don't actually, because it kind of ruined my day. But RSL and Colorado, another big surprise to me. I expected Colorado to come through, and let me tell you, picks and predictions. Oh boy, it's a rough one. That episode, go back and rewatch that one, or don't, because the picks were that bad. But everybody's picks across the board have been really bad. Everybody who's expecting a win, out of some of these teams, our guys over at DP Pod, they put a tweet out and they were like, yeah, we're 15 matches in for the three of us doing picks, and there's only been 2 correct picks out of 15, and I was like 1 of 5 at that time, and I'm like, yeah, guys, it's not looking good. So RSL comes out with a surprise. Colorado, who I thought has been playing better than RSL, they didn't really play very well, and Clint Irwin made a couple mistakes, a couple nice penalty saves as well, but RSL gets the 2-0 victory over Colorado. And I don't think there's much to take from the Colorado side of things other than, it's a little bit of rust, and we're getting over it. And I think they'll be okay. The first goal for Albert Rusnak was a great shot that he ended up getting in there. He almost had another one with the penalty, and then Damir Krylak ends up getting the second goal. It was kind of funny, while they were talking to Robin Fraser on the broadcast, like the ESPN announcers, like, "Oh, Robin, how do you think you can get your team back into the game?" And Robin Fraser's like, "Well, thinking," and he's like, right as the guy scores, and he's like, well, okay, well, we're gonna let you go now. And they're like, okay, so probably not gonna hear from Robin Fraser for the rest of the game. And yeah, they didn't. So 2-0 victory for Real Salt Lake. They sit atop the group with the Minnesota United.
With Minnesota.
So Daniel Young comes out here and says he's very worried about NYCFC. And Daniel, I know we talked over message, about New York City after that 1-0 loss to them, to Philadelphia Union. I would be worried too if I was a New York City fan. But again, they have lost to 3 very good teams this season. Philadelphia is a very good team at 9 a.m. Without Alexander Matritu. Matritu, I can't remember. I always get that one mixed up. But, an odd time after a 4-month break. You lost the TFC in Toronto, and then the first game, for some reason it's escaping me. But, another good team that they lost to, I'm pretty sure it was a good team. So New York City, what are your thoughts, Nick, before we jump into the action today? What do you think about New York City for Daniel?
I'm worried. I am worried as well. Because you're starting to see a little bit of that coaching carousel. I think they've had now 3 coaches in 5 years or something like that. And what's most worrying for me is now Maxi Morales is out. He picked up a quad injury, and head coach Delia said, hey, he could be out for weeks with this quad injury. So you're already missing Mitrita. You've got now your best player, your team leader in Maxi Morales out for weeks. I don't know what New York City is going to do. I don't think they have any answers, both tactically or on their roster right now. I don't think they have depth. I don't think they can replace Morales and Mitrita both at the same time. Maybe they could weather the storm if one of them was out. But with the two of them both going down, and to make it worse, you had Heber, who was one of your best players last year, one of the best players in the league last year for the time that he showed up. He missed a sitter on the far post. Like, if he's not connecting, if your best players are out, if your coach is scratching his head and saying things like, well, guys are out for weeks, I honestly don't know what bright spot New York City is going to have right now to look forward to. Maybe, as Daniel Young says, these are all 1-0 losses. So if they could just score a goal, maybe it'd help them.
Tigres and Columbus. I mean, yeah, New York City's the last team in the league to not score a goal. You brought up some good points, and I think I got to see them in their next couple of games. If they've got Orlando now, mind you, Orlando did win the game, and it's in Orlando, which kind of makes things a little bit tough, but they should be able to beat Orlando. As well, then, Inter Miami. You've got a good team who they still should be able to beat an expansion team. Let's see how these next two games go. For me personally, if they only get a point or even 2 points, if they don't get a win out of these next two games, hit that panic button. Ronnie Delia, you're on the hot seat. So, Nick, when are you hitting the panic button for New York City? Because it sounds to me like you might already hit it.
Yeah, I just did when I saw the Maxi Morales injury, and now the MLS is putting up like the gambling lines, the betting lines,
right,
on their main website, and I just saw New York City's negative -115, and Orlando is +310. So looking at that line, yeah, I'd hit the panic button.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're still the favorite. I don't know. That's I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'd hit the panic button with that line, man. That's a decent line for them. That's kind of where I'd put it right now. Maybe I might even put like New York City to like a -105 or a double your money +100, and maybe Orlando down a little bit to like a +250 or something like that. I think 310's a bit high. I might actually, with the news, that I might, for my next picks and predictions, where I'm putting $100 on every game since I lost so much damn money this week already, maybe I will have to look at Orlando. Sorry, Daniel. But I might have to do what's right for my wallet. But anyways, some good talk there, Daniel. Hope you enjoyed our takes on, although you probably didn't enjoy our takes on New York City FC. Now we get to talk about my favorite team, who was just cruising along this morning. Toronto FC comes out finally. Now the third time, right? This is the third time this game was supposed to be played, and it got postponed originally because TFC was late coming down. They had some issues coming down. Apparently they were delaying it because they didn't know what was going on with FC Dallas, and then the next day they ended up getting on the plane, or they went to the airport, and apparently the team doctor had some there was some rumors that the team doctor was trying to get the team not to go. So then somebody in the party, they would not acknowledge who, started experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. So they cancel the flight. They all go back home. They get another round of testing. They try flying again 2 days later, and voila. Magically, all the tests are negative, and they head down to Orlando. Now, they get to Orlando. They reschedule it for the 12th, and they're all ready to start playing. In the middle of the night, they get a message saying, wait a minute, a DC player has tested positive, and a Toronto player came back inconclusive. So they postponed the game and move it back to the next day, which was today. And both of those tests came back as negative. So apparently the DC United player had a false positive, and the Toronto FC player had just an inconclusive test and was negative all along, or whatever. However these tests work, I don't know. But anyways, they start playing this morning. Toronto FC's rolling. Josie Altidore, a coach's decision to not play him, which apparently Greg Vanney has been having some issues with Josie Altidore. He's been tweeting a lot about the bubble and tweeting about, that these 9 o'clock games are too hot and he doesn't want to play in them and that's not the way to do it and all this kind of stuff.
Kiss his USMNT call-ups goodbye then if he's going to be whining about it already.
Right.
Just feeding into more of that narrative of him and his core group of players being soft. Like, you know what, Josie?
Yeah.
If you're scoring goals, if you're every game, and if you're healthy for most of the season, maybe we're going to listen to you. But right now, you're just whining.
Yep, totally. So he's sitting out on the bench, out of the game, not even on the 18. And you get Ao Akinola steps up into his place. Now, Ao Akinola has been a U20 USMNT guy. He's got a lot of talent. He was getting courted by some teams overseas. TFC gave him a first-team deal, and they're giving him some time. He scores 2 beautiful goals, a cracker, and TFC is just cruising right along. Goes into halftime. Right before halftime, Junior Moreno for DC United gets sent off with a red card, and we're thinking, okay, done, right? It's over. It's hot. DC United's got to chase the rest of the way. This one's done and dusted. Well, apparently, Greg Vanney thought it was over as well, so he started pulling everybody. He pulled Justin Morrow at the half for Richie Larea, which is way early for Richie Larea. He pulls Mavinga and Gonzalez out of the back. He then goes and pulls Pozuelo out, as well as Piatti. So all of the big-time players for TFC, he pulls. And you're thinking, you know what? This is the perfect scenario, right? TFC, they get rest for their guys. They're up 2-0. They're up a man. Nothing to worry about. Wrong. Pipa Higuain comes into the game and then makes a beautiful run and gives a beautiful chip, totally Pipa style, and it's 2-1. So, and you're still thinking, well, DC's going for it a little bit more, but it'll be fine. And then all of a sudden...
Great to see that Higuain still has a little bit left in him.
Absolutely.
Like, a lot of people wrote him off after he left Columbus, or even his last couple years in Columbus.
Right.
I may have been one of those people, but great to see that he still has it in the tank and can contribute, even in a player-coach kind of role that he has with DC.
Right. Yeah. So then DC just in stoppage time gets another set piece, and boom, just like that, it's tied. A horrible result for Toronto FC. I mean, you want to talk about a draw that feels like a loss. There you have it. DC United, I mean, that's huge for their confidence going into the next game against New England Revolution. That's the team that, I mean, even the announcers were saying, sounds like Olsen is just, pulling his guys and, trying to get them some rest because there's no chance of coming back in this one. And Edison Flores came out. Gressel came out. I can't even remember a couple other guys. So they're bigger name guys all got pulled by Ben Olsen. And, you're thinking this is the way it's going to be. And just an absolute collapse by Toronto FC. And I'm hoping that Michael Bradley, who has been a leader for that club, can go after some of those young guys that came in and say a game is never over until the final whistle. Like, you could tell TFC just they got content. They're like, yeah, we're just going to kick the ball around and, kind of take our time, just play a little keep away, and then all of a sudden they get caught in a counter and they're just sleeping, and so it ruined my day, man. I was having a wonderful time. I was sitting out on by my RV, and of course we're checking out at by noon Eastern time because we were in Michigan, and I'm sitting there watching, and it's like it's 10:30, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is great, what a day, it's beautiful watching the game on my TV, outside, but man, I got to start packing up my RV soon, and then it just went to like, oh god, there's one. And I get a little nervous. And then, oh, God, there's 2. And I'm like, now I really have to pack up my whole RV. I have to go hit the dump station and drain the sewage. I'm like, really? After that? Like, you could have given me a good, a good send-off for my trip home. And then, of course, then I got to come home for children and all those lovely things. But we got a new subscriber here, Shooter McGavin, 18, subscribed to us. Thanks, Shooter, for coming on. And he says, let's go Revs. All right, so yeah, you're talking for sure. It's going to be a hell of a game against DC United now. They've got that 3 points in the bag on that first game against Montreal, and we will see how, It should be interesting to see how they match up against the hot DC team, who's going to have some faith. And as Shooter says, heed this warning, Toronto. The Revs are coming. All right, we'll see how it goes, because that's always a great matchup between the Revs and Toronto. Usually when they're in Toronto, Toronto takes care of business and beats the Revs fairly easily most of the time. And the same thing the opposite way in New England. When they're playing at Gillette, the Revs just own TFC. And we will see how it is at a 9 a.m. game, and the MLS's back tournament there in Orlando. So, Nick, what are your thoughts on that TFC game? Did you get a chance to get in to see any of that, or are you busy actually working?
Yeah, I actually had to work a little bit today, Mike. But honestly, this result flips the whole group on its head. We thought Toronto would be the team to come out, and New England would take the second spot. Now it looks like New England could win the group easily, and DC might be able to come out in the 2 spot with it, all depending on how the next couple games go. Like, it seemed to be pretty well set, but again, Toronto laid back. Maybe his players took too much of a cue from Vanny. Maybe Vanny overthought the situation and was looking 3 games down the road instead of just finishing out what was the one ahead of him. And there's the result: 1-1 draw, a point apiece. New England, the top of the table after 1 match.
Yep, there you go.
So that wraps up all of our game summaries. I know, Mike, I want to take a minute, and I know you'll echo my sentiments too here, to thank our sponsors of our podcast, of the Sons of a Pitch. Big thank you to Donovan Food Brokerage, a sales and marketing firm focusing on food services and sales in the Midwest. They do K through 12, non-commercial, commercial, and vending services. So reach out to Donovan Food Brokerage. Look them up, donovanfoodbrokerage.com, for all of your vending and food service sales needs, as well. Available at your 7-Eleven. And Mike, you've got our new YouTube sponsor up there as well. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so our new YouTube sponsor is Skira Icelandic water. This is awesome water. I've had a few bottles of it myself, and it is great. So that, go get that. It's available at all of your 7-Eleven stores here in the United States. So make sure you go grab some of that. And yes, thank you to all of our regular viewers and listeners, as well as H. Huss joins us on the broadcast. How's it going? It's going great. We're almost wrapping up. And Chris Machado says that's the beauty of sports, the unpredictability. You never know what can happen. True. That sums it up beautifully, Chris. But yeah, thanks again to our sponsors. We could not do this without you. And looks like we're going to have to spend a little bit more of that sponsorship money to upgrade some equipment here, because it's apparently just not able to handle it. We got to figure something out here, Nick. But either way, we're going to
tell you, man. I feel like whoever built my house made the office a bunker.
For real,
apparently,
man,
they were planning for doomsday.
Yeah, right.
It's
a metal
here
bunker
in the northwest
in your room
suburbs.
Or something. Yeah. So make sure before the end of the broadcast here, if you have joined us and have not subscribed already, make sure you subscribed. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If we do get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the MLS's back tournament on August 11th, one subscriber will be randomly drawn and win a $250 Visa gift card. So, Shooter McGavin, got your email here saying that you had subscribed, so thank you very much. You're entered into this as well. And everybody else who's watching, tell your friends about it. Let's get on this for sure. As Shooter says, he'll spread the word, guys. Good stuff. And if you guys want us to talk about anything, shoot us a message on Twitter at SOP Soccer DM. That's usually the best way to get a hold of us. And we will take it from there and bring some of that content into our next episodes. Enjoy the soccer. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to see what happened in LAFC in Houston tonight. I do know it's a 3-3 draw, but that is all I know. And we're going to sit back, watch some Portland and LA tonight, and then get ready. We will be doing a live stream reaction on Thursday, July 16th, which happens to be my birthday. I will be watching that one very happily, and be Montreal and Toronto doing a live stream reaction on Thursday night at 7 Central. So everybody have a good night, and we will talk to you guys very, very soon.